Here we go. Another Locked On 49ers live podcast. I hope you all, and actually I see a ton of you jumping in the chat right now, getting pumped for this one. Can the 49ers continue to be road dogs here throughout the playoffs? Up next are those Green Bay Packers. Jimmy Garoppolo, sprained shoulder, an ankle for Fred Warner, concussion protocol for Nick Bosa, important injuries there, the latest updates. And what about some cheap shots that the Dallas Cowboys were taking on 49ers players after the whistle? All that and deep into the chat on this live edition of Locked On 49ers coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers live edition. Thanks to everybody who's showing up in the chat. I see a ton of you jumping on live with us right now. We went a little early. We were supposed to wait until this Monday Night Football game was over, but really it's kind of a garbage game at this point. We know what's going to happen. We know what the score is. We know who the opponents will be, and the matchups will be now in the divisional round. It will be the Rams. I don't know what the final score will be, but it will be the Rams advancing over the Arizona Cardinals. So 49ers and Packers, Bengals at Titans, the Rams at Buccaneers, and the Bills at Chiefs. Some tasty, tasty matchups in the divisional round. Croc, I got to start with the short week because 49ers are going to Green Bay Saturday. A couple of pretty big injuries. When your best pass rusher, all-pro Fred, who you just re-upped this offseason, and your quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, all in the injury report, that's not ideal. Although Kyle Shanahan sounding pretty optimistic. So hopefully that does pan out and all those guys are ready to play because those are impact players. Like you don't want to lose any of those guys. And it's a short week, so one less day to get ready Saturday.
You need those guys for sure. And the one that really sticks out, because they said they expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be practicing Wednesday. We all know, with the COVID protocols and things like that, guys, they eventually they'll get cleared. I don't think Nick Bosa really has to practice to prepare for this game. But Fred Warner, that's the one that kind of worries me. I see someone in the chat guy, the Newt says Fred Warner tweeted out that he's going to be good for the game. But my kind of rule of thumb, when you have an ankle injury and you leave the game and don't return, first thing that comes in my head is high ankle sprain. That's the first thing. Because typically if you just roll your ankle, you tape it up, you finish the game, it swells up after the game, and then you do your little rehab, icing, and all that type of stuff. To leave and not come back, that's typically not just a regular, I rolled my ankle. So that's the one I'll be keeping an eye on, probably the most, even more so than Jimmy Garoppolo and his shoulder sprain.
God, the way and it was so back-to-back with the Jimmy Garoppolo interception with Fred Warner on the ground, and he looked in so much pain, and it was, oh no, is this how this is going to go down now for the 49ers? Fred on Twitter today saying, sorry for the scare yesterday, everyone. I appreciate everyone showing love and support for me and the fellas. We'll be good to go. Huge win. On to the next. And Kyle Shanahan did say that luckily they feared it was that high ankle sprain, and it turns out they got good news there on Fred Warner's ankle. So all that looking positive right now. He didn't sound too worried about concussion protocol. I saw in the chat here someone said it sounds more like a stiff neck than a concussion thing for Nick Bosa. So hopefully that is the case and he'll be okay. Although, necks are scary as well. So, knocking on wood for all those guys to be ready because that is huge and that is really important. Kyle Shanahan, at least to start the week, pretty optimistic. But again, it's a short week and going to Lambeau, and it's going to be physical again. Croc, can the 49ers continue to keep this up, this road warrior, this road underdog mentality? And they just went out and brutalized two teams on the road, one to get into the playoffs and one in the first round of the playoffs, where you're if you're looking at a scorecard, these were borderline knockout sort of boxing matches. If you're using the boxing terminology, they were unanimous wins on everybody's scorecard the last 2 weeks on the road. Can the 49ers keep that going in Green Bay?
I don't know if the Rams one was unanimous. Obviously, we know what the result was, but that was kind of a 12-round fight. Really, both of them were like 12-round fights, right? And those are exhausting. If you watch, the heavyweight guys, they start to get towards that 11th, 12th round. They start to, it's kind of hard to fire on all cylinders. And both of these games took everything. I don't want to say it took everything out of the 49ers, but to be able to have those games back to back and then turn around short week and have to go to Lambeau Field, which I was considering going to it. I said I was going to go. Like, man, I'm feeling like the lucky charm. I went to the last couple games. Then I looked at the weather. I said, oh no, it's like 7 degrees, 6 degrees, snow. Like, that's not really Crocky elements. So y'all might not see me.
7 degrees is run the stinking football elements, right? Like I think that helps.
It is 49er element
more than the Packers. I don't know if it's good for Jimmy Garoppolo and bad thumb, bad shoulder now, and him chucking the ball around. But if you can run the ball on the Packers, which was, I mean, we already know what the MO is. We know what the game plan is going to be for the 49ers, and they're going to try to do that, and they're going to try to blow them off the football. Can they do it in 7-degree weather? Arm-wise, it's a little bit tougher. We saw that with Bills and Patriots in very similar weather. I think it was 5 to 7 degrees in that one, and it was such a clear difference seeing Josh Allen throw the ball with the bigger arm, seeing Mac Jones throw the ball. So in that regard, the Packers would obviously have the advantage in quarterback arm strength with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed, if you ask quarterbacks, I think they'd rather play like in cold or snow as opposed to the, like rain and those type of elements. So as long as it's not windy, but it's just like, oh man, it's just really cold, I think guys can kind of play through that.
No bad Jimmy equals unanimous decision wins. Yeah, I mean, there's been a little bad Jimmy each of the last 2 weeks, and they've still been winning football games. It's funny because I thought of that interception late in the game because we had that conversation, Croc. Doesn't even matter. It's okay if bad Jimmy shows up once per game, right? He just can't show up twice or 3 times. Is it okay?
Right. Well, we said if you turn the ball over one time, they'd still win this game. And
yes,
that's what happened. Now, if you think of if they would have turned it over another one. Yeah. And I told one of my buddies, I said, as long as the 49ers turn the ball over once or less, they will win. I said 2 more times, they'll lose this game. I told my buddy that. He was like, okay, I believe you. And one time, so they won.
I want to go actually to the Twitter mailbag. I'm going to get deep into the chat here on the YouTube live as well. But my boy Kruger wanted to ask you, Croc. He said, before I listened to the Monday podcast, is Croc going to jam up his boy who kept yapping about how superior Lamb is to Ayuk? Show him that stat sheet from yesterday, and BA would have had 40 to 75 more yards, maybe a TD, had Jimmy Garoppolo not missed him nakedly open late in the third quarter.
Listen, trust me. They heard me loud and clear. I would show you my messages right now in the group chat about that, but it's a little explicit, right? A little X-rated when it comes to the language. But definitely they heard all about that. CeeDee Lamb having 1 catch. He did have one earlier in the game that got called back because of a penalty on like their offensive line or whatever. But 1 catch, 21 yards. Like, and Ayuk, the damage should have been much worse.
If you had to choose either Bosa or Warner, and one of them guaranteed to play next week, one's guaranteed to not play next week, which one would you choose?
Bosa. Look, to play? Yeah, you got to get after. You got to get after. You got to pressure the quarterback. I mean, I think our linebackers are playing good. I mean, with or without Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair. Like, and I don't want to diminish Fred Warner's role in this team and how well he plays, but I mean, Greenlaw's flying around. He's hitting guys. He's stuffing runs. You got Al-Shaair. He's done a terrific job. So yeah, you got to lose one of the two if you have to. Like, give me Bosa.
Alex says the Cowboys fans are so delusional. We got to talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys, their team, and maybe a little bit about their fans as well. They were fighting each other after the game in the parking lot. I saw a ton of stuff crying on the telecast, showing different fans. They were in a bad way in Dallas on Sunday. Let's get to that. And I think the players were in a bad way as well, playing a little bit after the whistle. I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and the 49ers are probably sending the league office some tape to review about some cheap shots that the Dallas Cowboys took. We'll get into that next, get deep into the chat here as we talk about the 49ers and going on the road to continue this playoff run next. And if you want to make a little cash on the 49ers playoff run, I made a little cash. I had a really good feeling about that matchup against the Dallas Cowboys getting points. You can get even more points this week against the Green Bay Packers. I think the line is still 5.5 at betonline.ag. And BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue this roll through the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop or mobile website that can help you sign up and get your 50% welcome bonus with promo code Locked On. Just use that promo code Locked On to get started and get that first deposit bonus. And not only football at Bet Online, you can bet on basketball, hockey. Hopefully there is a baseball season at some point in 2022 with the lockout. Boxing, UFC, your favorite Vegas casino games as well. Poker, blackjack. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for 2022. Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. Cheap shots, Croc. Multiple cheap shots. I saw the Randy Gregory punch to the back, in the back of the neck or the back of the head to Deebo Samuel. And that was the one. That one jumped out to me live. And when you see the all-22, there were some videos floating around of that today. It's even more obvious. You
see Deebo Samuel got up. I mean, I remember watching it live, and I was in that standing area, and I said, did y'all see that? And they're like, what? I'm like, guy just punched Deebo in the back of the head. And they're like, no. Then you can see it on the Jumbotron, you see the replay, and they were like, oh my gosh. And Deebo got up like, what the heck? Nobody saw that?
Yeah, who was that? And it came from behind, so we didn't really know. And I think it was Alex Mack, maybe one of the offensive linemen right there. I thought there was going to be a tussle, but the offensive lineman's like, oh, whatever. Because Deebo's thigh pad was coming out of his pants. And I've noticed that the last couple of games when he's getting used heavily as a running back, he's pretty gassed. I'm thinking, man, he's only got 10 carries and 3 catches. Elijah Mitchell's got 27 carries. Why does Deebo look so tired and sitting on the sideline? And then I'm like, oh yeah, and he's also like running go routes and running posts and show me stuff, and maybe not getting targeted on some of these plays, playing a full game, and dudes are taking cheap shots on him in the pile. That's why he's so stinking tired. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, Kyle, I'm sure was not happy to see those things later on film if he didn't notice them during the game. And I'm sure the league office is getting some videos sent their way. And it wasn't just the Deebo cheap shot. There was a full-on punch thrown by, it was 11 on 11. It was Brandon Ayuk and Parsons well after the play in front of the ref, no flags thrown. Cowboys fans are completely delusional, mad about the refs in that game. There was numerous personal fouls from an undisciplined and really just angry, getting beat and didn't know what to do, just grasping at whatever they could Cowboys team because they were getting beat up. So they were throwing punches after the play because they couldn't get anything done during the play.
You know what I think it was? And did you talk about the one where Alex Mack got pushed in the back? Did you talk about that?
No, forgot about that one too. Yeah, Alex Mack completely pushed in the back after the play, well after the play. And
right in front of the ref. The ref just watched him like hit the ground. And it's like, but there was so much talk about the 49ers being the bullies and being the more physical team. And I wonder if the Dallas Cowboy players were so amped up and they wanted to show like, well, we're not going to be pushed around. So they did all this cheap stuff after the play, not knowing when people say the 49ers are like bullies and physical team, it's within the whistles, right? When the ball is snapped and until that whistle blows, we don't see 49ers getting and have issues after the snap. So Dallas Cowboys, extremely undisciplined team, and being undisciplined, it's not just the false start jumping off sides. We saw from them plenty in that game, but it's every aspect of what you do. So it's from the guys jumping off sides when they shouldn't be doing it, guys tackling offensive linemen. Like, when's the last time you've seen holding get called on defensive lineman twice in a game? Let alone once. I mean, you rarely see it once. It was called twice, but it's because you're very undisciplined. The cheap shots after the play, and then the debacle at the end of the game, fumbling the snap, and they think that they can cheat, the refs by, moving the ball up 3 more yards than where it should be, and they're fumbling with it, and the ref has to, and then, it was a mess. It was a mess.
Like, everybody
and
knows
that's on
that.
them.
Yeah,
that's
the
on
ref
them.
has to spot the ball. There's no getting around it. There's no blaming the refs on that one. They got beat up, and I bet you anything, the reason there were some of those cheap shots after the plays, because the coaches were chewing their asses out. They were telling them, they were challenging their manhood. They're saying, you guys are getting the crap kicked out of you. Go do something about it. And so they couldn't do anything about it during the play. So they're taking swings after the whistle because they were getting their asses beat, really. And that's what it boiled down to. And the last play, everybody knows you can't spot the ball yourself. Even if you spotted it in the wrong place, it doesn't matter. You can't spot it, period, even if they put it in the right place. So yeah, the Cowboys have nobody to blame but themselves. Cowboys fans and Cowboys players pointing at the refs. And, I know Dak was upset after the game, and he's usually a pretty stand-up guy, but that was pretty lame what he said after the game, talking about for them with people throwing stuff onto the field at the refs as they were running off the field. It's, the Cowboys have nobody to blame but themselves.
And that's why when you can't take accountability for how you play, that's why you lose. You were behind. you're down 23-7. Luckily, shoot, they're just lucky to be in that game. To blame the refs when you never had a lead the entire time, you got outplayed, you got outcoached by really what essentially was the better team on the field.
Was that that was for sure a designed quarterback run, right? A quarterback draw, or did Dak take off himself? Because I didn't hear any of the post game stuff from the Cowboys. Was that designed, or did Dak do that? Because either way, it was terrible decision. Like, what are you doing with 14 seconds left and no timeouts, running a long developing play that takes you to the middle of the field? It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was by. I don't think it was by design. I think that's something that he knows is potentially an option if you have a team that's taking away out of bounds, which the 49ers finally did. It took them long enough, but they finally went to, okay, we're going to take away the outside, the out of bounds. And he just took off because that's the empty area. He got as many yards as he could. He maybe should have slid about 5 yards sooner.
Seen in the chat that they're saying that maybe they said it was designed. McCarthy said it was designed after the game. Yeah, who knows? Maybe it was something that's built into that play, and it was still on Dak for taking that option. But yeah, either way, if it was Dak or if it was McCarthy, just a terrible call. What are you doing? Like, at least give yourself a shot to throw the ball into the end zone. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of times in the NFL, you have multiple options off of, depending on the look that you're getting. So you see the 49ers get to the line of scrimmage and you see everybody start pointing to their head, they're either flipping their play or they're going to something else. And we saw that when, with the Harbaugh years where they used to let it roll. You used to hear Kaepernick or Alex Smith say that. So, yeah, a lot of times you have these different options that are built in based on the look of the defense.
Oh, Packers, Cowboys. Like, this is crazy. Then if the 49ers roll through the Green Bay Packers and the Buccaneers beat the Rams, now you've got the battle of former New England Patriots quarterbacks, Jimmy G versus Tom Brady, right? Like, it's too perfect of a path for the 49ers, but it's going to be so darn difficult. I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want 49ers fans out there that are listening to this podcast get their hopes up, because it's such a long shot that the 49ers can do this. But I can tell you this, there's no team in the NFC right now that wants to see the 49ers, right? And I would be willing to bet that every team's last choice to be facing next week is probably the 49ers.
And it's because of the way that they play, just with that physicality. And everybody says, like, oh, yeah, we want to be fast. We want to be physical. But not everybody plays like that. And the 49ers, like, that's truly their identity with how they fly around, with how they run the ball. Going up to Green Bay, I actually believe heading into this game that Green Bay is, and everybody knows this, NFL is all about matchups. I think that's a better matchup for the 49ers. Not saying they're going to win, but playing Green Bay is a better matchup based on how the teams are built. And, as opposed to the Dallas Cowboys. I thought the Dallas Cowboys posed more challenges really all the way around with how the 49ers play, how they win, where their weaknesses are. Same with the Cowboys. I think Green Bay, I like the 49ers chances more than Dallas. And that's kind of saying something.
Another home game at SoFi before the Super Bowl at SoFi in the NFC Championship. I feel like you got to be rooting for the Rams, seeing how the Buccaneers crushed the Eagles this week. I feel like the run defense for the Buccaneers is something that maybe the 49ers would rather not face. So what do you think about that one? Rams or Buccaneers? Who should 49ers fans be rooting for there next week?
I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I think you want to play Tampa. And I never want to play Tom Brady. I mean, I just think he's just, obviously so amazing, and he's been there, he's done that in all the situations, but they're kind of wounded a little bit. Their running back situation is really weird right now. I watched the last game. I didn't see Leonard Fournette. I didn't see Ronald Jones. I think I saw some guy named Vaughn and Bernard. And then you look at the receivers, they're missing Godwin. There's no AB. Defensively, they're wounded in the secondary. Right now, it's all about Tom Brady and just him being as great as he is. So, but I think from top to bottom and how, again, matchups, I like the 49ers matchup against Tampa right now with that way that roster is right now, more so than the LA Rams, because I get it. 49ers, they've had their number, but they do have explosive players. They do have weapons. They do have elite players on both sides of the ball that I feel like, change the the way the game is going, more so than what the Bucs have, aside from Tom Brady being their quarterback.
Yeah, and it is difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row in a season. I get that angle, but man, I'd be more scared of Tom Brady than Matthew Stafford. Maybe the 49ers did the Rams a favor by beating them last week, and they sort of righted their ship against the Cardinals because they blew the Cardinals. The Cardinals looked awful. How bad was Kyler Murray and the Cardinals? Like,
Hey,
at some point, you got to start firing people for how bad that was. That was one of the worst playoff performances I've ever seen.
I tweeted out and I meant it too. I said, he keep playing like this, he's going to be playing for the center field for the Stockton Ports. You know, because he was drafted by the A's. One of the farm league teams is the Stockton Ports. I was expecting him to see him in Stockton until he ended up entering the NFL draft, but it doesn't look good, and he looks lost. That's the thing. Like he just looks so lost. He's quick to escape out the pocket. He thinks everything has to be on the run. He's playing so much backyard football. I can't imagine that's the way that this offense is designed, and I feel like their offense it's spread out with simple reads to get the ball in your hands now, and he's just not doing that. I don't know if he's because he's so short, he can't see over the line, but gosh, that air raid thing, like our guy BSC says, it's not working right now.
Not working at all. Our colleague Alex Clancy, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Cardinals, he's been calling for Cliff Kingsbury's job for a while. It's hard to fire a coach who takes you to the playoffs, and they were the 1 seed at one point. But man, the second half of the season, they've looked bad. I know they beat the 49ers a couple times, and once with Colt McCoy, but that was one of the worst performances I've seen in a while, and one of the worst plays I've seen in a while with Kyler Murray trying to avoid the safety and throwing the pick six. I mean, that's classic blooper reel stuff. That is as bad as it gets for a playoff quarterback and a playoff team.
Yep.
All right, we've got to move on. I want to get into the chat, so get your questions ready for the third segment here. Croc, do you want to go a little overtime on the YouTube live?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I got my hot chocolate. I'm ready.
Okay, to go. Good. Yeah, I got my tea here. Trying to warm up my insides from my ski trip this weekend. I'm sore all over. Gosh, man, I'm so sore just from 2 days in a row of skiing. But yeah, I need the Croc workout plan. I'm in a bad way right now. I gotta get back. I gotta get back into I don't know what kind of shape, some semblance of shape. Maybe Croc can help me out with that when he gets his new facility going over there in Monticello, Arkansas. All right, so Croc's not going to Green Bay. Some folks in the chat are angry about that. Next segment, let's get into those chat questions, and then we'll finish up this episode. But I want to tell the folks out there about TurboTax Live. People think unusual circumstances mean complicated taxes, but for TurboTax Live experts, that's what makes things interesting. Maybe you inherited a condo or renting it out, maybe getting paid in crypto and aren't sure how it's taxed. Well, for TurboTax Live experts, it's an interesting life that can mean even greater refund. Luckily, TurboTax Live can match you with the right expert who has experience in your unique situation and can answer all your tax questions right from your phone or computer. Let's say you are a podcast mogul like Eric Crocker and you've got some unique taxes. You can go to TurboTax Live and they can hook you up with an expert to figure all of that out. So visit TurboTax.com to learn more. You do your thing. They've got your taxes into it. TurboTax Live. Jimmy,
I might need to holler at them because I think last 2 months, I've made like over $13,000 just off the streaming stuff. And I don't know, man. I know I'm going to get hit with the taxes.
Yeah, make sure you do it right, Crocky. Make sure you do it right, Crocky. Jimmy G, if Jimmy's thumb and shoulder knock him out of the game Sunday, how does Trey do?
I think he does well because Jimmy Garoppolo in the second half, would he complete 5 out of something like it wasn't a good second half. So if he got hurt, that wasn't a game where they needed Jimmy Garoppolo after halftime, right? Like, what did he do second half to contribute to a win? First half, he got out. Boom, 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 clicking on all cylinders, push the ball downfield right away. Awesome. Second half, I think that was something where Trey Lance could have played in. Unless he would have thrown multiple interceptions, I think the results would have been the same.
And that's what I question again. It was at the shoulder because he hurt it in the second quarter. And all of a sudden, after the shoulder injury, maybe it didn't look as good. And he's tough. He's going to play through it. But, and Kyle, guys, a sprain, a grade 3 sprain in his thumb or whatever, basically a torn thumb ligament. And now a a sprained shoulder on his throwing arm. That can't be good going into 7-degree weather. So a little bit worried. I think that definitely hits on the worry meter for me, even though Kyle Shanahan said it's fine. He's going to be playing Wednesday, and maybe he'll be all numbed up and not feeling anything next Saturday. But that worries me a little bit. He would have, we've already seen his arm would have to not work Saturday morning for Trey Lance to play, period.
Well, I think when you look at the way this week is constructed, especially like you said, on a short week, everybody just thinks like, oh, okay, you have less time to prepare. But it's not just prepare. It's you have less time to prepare. You have less time to rehab. Even on top of that, it's even a day less because it's a road game. So, typically you fly out Saturday morning or whatever, and you're there, you're ready for the game. Like now you play that day. So you not only get a day taken away, but you also have your travel day as well. That takes away time to be able to rehab. You can't rehab and do things while you're flying on the plane, and then you have to get settled in somewhere else. Do you have all the resources that you would have if you were at home playing at Levi Stadium? I think that's what makes it a little bit tough on guys that have some of these injuries going on with the 49ers.
Roberto wants to know, Croc, do you think they let Ambry Thomas go one-on-one with Devontae Adams or give him a little bit of help? I think we're going to see a lot of zone against the Packers, although Aaron Rodgers is good at carving up those zone defenses. So we'll see. Maybe just some multiple stuff. Try to confuse him a little bit. You don't leave anybody one-on-one with Devontae Adams because you're just asking to beat, right?
Yeah, well, this is one of those games where I'm gonna have to just tell everybody, like, listen, he beats everybody. So, when he starts kind of cooking a little bit, don't think that it's just exclusive to the 49ers getting that butt whooping. I mean, Adams, here's the tough thing. I don't know what you do. The only thing you can really do is pressure Aaron Rodgers and maybe move him off of his spot so he can't throw in rhythm. But when he throws the ball to Devontae Adams, I watch games and I'm just like, I don't know what you do. Like, you can be in perfect position. You can kind of be, okay, I'm going with him and I'm reading him down. And then A-Rod just throws like the most perfect back shoulder throw. And there is nothing you can do about it as a cornerback. Nothing. You almost have to get lucky and hope that I really don't know. I don't know what you do. It's tough. So does he go one-on-one with A-Rod, man? I mean, with Devontae Adams, maybe you try to run more cover two. I have no idea.
You know what you do is you keep him off the sinking field. You run it on offense. You play keep away. You make them one-dimensional to have to play from behind. We've seen the recipe numerous times for the 49ers. The game script helps them so much, maybe more than any team in the NFL. Saw it against the Cowboys. Saw it in 2019 against those Packers. That's what you got to do. You got to get the scoreboard in your favor. You've got to keep the defense off the field as much as possible against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and you got to keep moving the chains, running the ball, converting on those third downs. I mean, that's the recipe. It's no secret at this point what the 49ers have to do. Croc, what do you think? A live post game from a game, you and me. We have not been to a game together ever.
I have not.
Alex wants to see it. It's hard. I will say this. It's hard to pod legitimately from anywhere other than my pod studio. That's one of the more difficult things about it because we're not going to just roll with phone audio. We might, we could do a short little thing like that. But to be honest, if Croc and I are both at the game, unless we've got a place to pod after to go somewhere, it makes it more difficult to do a podcast actually. So I don't know if you want that.
Right. And you got all kind of different stuff with your setup and everything. And, the little thing where they got the little voices and all that. And so he has all kind of cool stuff. Look at that. He got a soundboard and
Eric Crocker, always around the football at that time, made a great catch.
See, I don't have all that stuff. So
I like to have fun with audio. How would I like Utah? Keisha asking, I'm in Utah, 40 minutes from Park City. I loved Utah. Utah was beautiful. Had a hell of a time skiing. The snow is fantastic. I might say better snow, drier snow than California. Although I do like my trips to Lake Tahoe. Oh, geez. Where do you want to go here, Croc? Do you see anything in the chat? Can't believe I'm going to Alex too much. Alex says, can't believe Shanahan didn't think of using Deebo as a running back earlier in the season. Juice was starting running back versus the Packers in week 3. Yeah, it's crazy because, and Mike McDaniel talked about this, they were learning as the season went on what they were able to do with them. And I think they were as surprised as we were watching Deebo work as a true running back. And they're like, wait a second, this guy's legitimately a real running back, and we can use him like that. Not just this gadgety guy, not just sweeps and end rounds and things like that. We can put him in the backfield, hand it to him, and he can run real ass running back plays. Like that's pretty amazing. And I think they learned that as the season went on too. I don't think they knew he was good with the ball in his hands, but they didn't know that. And none of us knew that. It's pretty amazing the level that Deebo Samuel has taken this thing.
Yeah, it's he's just very unique with his skill set. And again, I talked about him being a generational talent. And like, what is that? Right. And I think it's just when it's somebody that's super unique and super productive, and you can't find anybody like that. I think when it comes to him, again, like I believe you said it, there's going to be teams that try to, find a Debo clone, but they might not be Debo. Did you see that on that? I posted the clip where he took off on the touchdown run, just the acceleration to blow by two guys. Like, that's unique to be able to do that at 5'11", like 220 pounds, and be able to be that fast. He is fast and that explosive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's just so unique.
Yeah, it's not even so much top speed. It's just that burst, that explosive burst, that quick twitch fiber that he has is crazy. When he hits it, he can hit it, and he softens the edge just perfect, and he's got vision to find where he needs to go, and then he's got power to run through. He's the 49ers' heaviest running back when he's playing running back at 220 pounds. So he's legitimately got that skill. And, when you extrapolate, and look, I know his efficiency would go down. You read the stat for Monday's podcast earlier about, it'd be 2,100 yards and 43 touchdowns if he was a full-time running back and had Jonathan Taylor's usage. Obviously that efficiency would go down, but I legitimately believe that Deebo Samuel would be at the very least a top 5 running back, and maybe literally the best running back in the NFL if he was used that way full-time, if he was able to. And look, it's the playoffs now, so use them as much as you need to, wherever you need to over the course of a long season. Maybe use the running back stuff only when you have to, because the 49ers have some other pretty good running backs too, namely Elijah Mitchell, who's doing some pretty good things. So you don't have to use Deebo all the time as a running back. Just use it when you need to.
We have a lot of people in the chat asking about the weather and how the 49ers deal with that. It's a high of 21 degrees. It looks like snow coming in. And I think by the time they play, because it'd be like 8 at night, it won't be a high of 21. It'd be probably a lot colder than that. So once that sun starts going down, it's going to be a little crisp. And I dealt with that when I was out in Minnesota last weekend before I went out over to Dallas. And I mean, it was blistering cold out there as well. It's like 4 degrees. I was like, man, what is this? I don't know how you play in that.
I don't know either. Tyler says to prep for the cold, you have the players go sit in the cold surf in the bay. And yeah, the bay water is pretty darn cold. So that would be one way to do it. Yeah, I don't know. What do you do? Do you not let the players? Do you practice at night all week and not let the players wear long sleeves or something like that, just to get them a little bit chilly during the week? I don't know if there's anything you can do. You just say, hey guys, it's gonna be cold, so deal with it.
It's not, well, I haven't played in anything that cold, but sometimes it gets kind of cold here in Monticello. It's probably 30 degrees right now, right where I'm at. It's probably 30 degrees. And sometimes, like, when I'll go work out, and when I come out of my workout, like, it's 30 degrees, but it doesn't feel like 30 degrees. After you break a sweat, after you warm up a little bit, it's like, well, I could play football in this weather right now if I had to. Now, 14 degrees at kickoff is a lot different than 30 degrees. But once you start moving around and stuff, and they have all kind of stuff for the players. You got the heated benches. They got these giant heaters there. They got those big overcoats. And then you go in and you play. So it's cold. And the ball is going to be rock hard. And when you fall, you could tell. And I don't know if you noticed in the Bills versus Patriots game, I felt like everybody wasn't running fast. I'm like, man, why did it look like that? I'm like, man, maybe they don't want that contact because it's kind of cold out there. So
they were moving
that's something
slow,
you have to deal with
man.
as well.
That was crazy watching Dawson Knox just toast J.C. Jackson. It was different how the Bills were moving faster than the Patriots on the field. Like they had better cleats in or something. There's definitely something to it, and some teams are ready for it, and some teams kind of fold with that kind of weather. Croc, did you have a chance to watch any of the broadcasts? Because I know you were there. There's a lot of fans that I saw this during the game. They got mad about sideline reporter calling Nick Bosa Joey Bosa. I think they called him Joey Bosa multiple times, and some people get mad at Tony Romo. I mean, I don't know. I usually don't get to
They're brothers.
the officiating. It's like whatever. You make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time here, and when someone's up my rear end, every single mistake I make is just like whatever.
Someone tagged me, right? And they were like, because I said cooking on cylinders. Sometimes when you're live and you're just something you might have something in your head, but it just comes out something entirely different. But once you're live, you're live. You can't take it back. So we all make some mistakes sometimes. Tony Romo, terrible, man. I thought everybody loved Tony Romo.
No, Tony, I thought he was fine. At the very end of the game, he kind of turned into a fan. He's like, "Oh no, they're gonna clock it. Oh, what's happening? Well, oh, it was, I can't hate him for that necessarily because I think everyone was feeling the same thing. What the hell is going on right now?" But no, Tony Romo was good. He was fine. He played for the Cowboys. I thought he played it pretty straight. I didn't have any problem with the broadcasting team. And a lot of fans get really mad at stuff like that. I would just say turn it off. Listen to something else. I don't know. All right, Croc, we got to get out of here. Let's stick around with the chat, though, and get into the chat. We've got to end the regular portion, the audio-only portion of this podcast. I do want to thank everybody for jumping into the live. If you've never jumped on one of the YouTube lives and you're listening to this in your car, make sure you go to youtube.com/LockedOn49ers and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you know when we go live, or if you are listening on your way to work, that's cool, too. We love you for it. And you can find this podcast on all of your favorite podcast apps. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out me with Matt Williamson on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Croc is doing Locked On NFL Draft daily. It's about to be draft season, although not for a little while for those 49ers, pushing draft season back, which I am definitely A-okay with. Croc and I back tomorrow. It's another Winky Wednesday right here, Locked On 49ers. Mostert. What do you think about Mostert next year? I think Mostert's gone. Can you pay a running back?
Yeah. I wouldn't. And not even veteran minimum. I mean, like if I don't have to pay him whatever his vet minimum is. But it would be nice that, I mean, you want Mostert or you want to keep using Deebo Samuel as a running back, which is not the worst thing in the world, but his usage, and it's just like having those games where I talked about like Cincinnati Bengals game, one reception for 22 yards. Like, man, get this dude the ball in space, catching the ball. So.
Mostert's going to sign with the New York Jets anyway.
Real quick, our guy Herbro, he's been in the chat and talked about how to deal with the cold weather, and he mentioned Viagra, and that was one thing that I believe it was Bart Scott was telling the Buffalo Bills guys, hey, the Viagra helps because it like helps the blood flow, I guess, and I guess if you think about it, I guess that's what it's for. I don't know, haven't had to use it yet, but yeah, maybe that's something that'll really get that blood flowing.
Yeah. Get the blood to those extremities.
Yeah.
Hopefully more of the fingers and toes than anything else, during a football game. I don't know if Josh Allen actually did that, but man, he was up for the challenge. I'll say that. Against those New England Patriots.
Yeah, he was up for the challenge.
If Jimmy wins the Super Bowl, does he get a chance to stay next season?
No.
I thought about this. Let me first of all, I agree with you. No. But I put this out there on Twitter today, and let's say the New York Giants, who have, first of all, they love the 49ers organization. They've interviewed two different front office people from the 49ers, Rand Carthen and Adam Peters. If they sign one of those guys, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the next phone call Kyle Shanahan gets is from either Peters or Carthen, and they want to interview DeMeco Ryans for their head coach job. A little 49ers East action happening with the New York Giants. Can Kyle Shanahan play a little bit of hardball here and say, okay, well, look, you obviously need to figure out your quarterback situation. You were in the building when we traded for Jimmy G, when we gave him all that money. How about we'll let you take, maybe a scout here, an assistant coach there to help fill out your staff. You give us a 1 for Jimmy G, and then you can start 49ers East with not only a GM and a head coach, but a quarterback as well. And then I was reminded, they were also part of the same front office that went and traded up for Trey Lance. And then it got me thinking, oh no, what if Shanahan and Lynch all along were the Mac Jones guys? And it was the scouting department, and it was Peters and Carthen and all of them that really pushed them to draft Trey Lance. And the 49ers say, man, we got this quarterback. We just went to Super Bowl. How about you just give us those 3 firsts and a third back, and we'll send you Trey Lance to start your new program over there in New York. Obviously, that would never happen. That would be just a bonkers thing to go down. But I can't wait for some of this because I think we'll start to get some information. The whole 49ers front office didn't like the same guy, right? It for sure. I would love to know which people liked even Fields, who loved Lance, who pushed for him to be drafted the most, who pushed for Mac Jones. Even if some of them liked Mac Jones, you could see how they could have all come to the decision. Well, yeah, but Trey Lance is the guy with the higher upside. We got to go with Trey Lance here over Mac Jones, even if it was pretty split. But I would love to know which one it was and who liked who. And I think some of those things will be hashed out, and we might find some of those things out because maybe, who knows, maybe Adam Peters was the one that pushed for the Jimmy G thing to happen all along. And maybe he's the guy that says, I love Jimmy Garoppolo. We can win with this guy. Let's boot Daniel Jones and bring in Jimmy Garoppolo over here and start this thing with the Giants. It'll give us a couple years, maybe worry about drafting a quarterback next year. It gives us 2 years with Jimmy G, and we'll get the program rolling.
Let's say, hypothetically, GM Brian Peacock, you go on to be the Giants general manager. Would you give up a first for Jimmy Garoppolo?
No. I'm surprised they haven't called me, by the way. But no, I wouldn't give up a first for Jimmy G. But
why not? Why not? Even if 49ers win the Super Bowl, why wouldn't you?
I'd want to keep those resources to build. One thing about the Giants is they're not as ready to win as the 49ers were. They do have some pieces. They also have a really screwed up salary cap situation. So I don't know if they could even afford Jimmy G. They would have to extend him and then push some future money out and then probably cut some people and maybe take their medicine in year one. So you'd be losing with Jimmy Garoppolo most likely in year one anyway, but there are some weapons there. I don't know. I just think you would be smarter holding on to those draft picks, building the thing out, maybe even continuing to trade down because you got those assets. Maybe the right quarterback isn't there for you this year in the draft. Maybe you just roll with, because that's what you'd be saying. You'd be saying, man, not only do we not like Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo is a first round pick better than Daniel Jones, even though he's 30 years old. And you could use that first pick for a quarterback. You can move up if you really love one of the quarterbacks in this draft. You could continue to move down with all those extra assets you have, build more stock of draft picks in future seasons, then go attack a quarterback. Maybe if there's really a superstar quarterback in next year's draft, maybe, I don't know, Croc, do you think there's a guy out there in the draft next year that would be like, oh, this is the guy who's going to be number one overall if this year's class doesn't have one of those guys?
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at how CJ Stroud plays. I mean, Ohio State, and Bryce Young as well. Both guys that seem to be talented and can make all the throws. Stroud has more size, a little bit, still kind of a little lean, but Bryce Young, he's definitely on the slimmer side and not tall. So we'll see how people kind of start to view them as prospects, but both guys have some legit ability and will definitely be, I would assume, higher prospects than what we've seen from the guys this year. But real quick, I wanted, because you're talking about Jimmy, and it says, Rappaport said that many teams want Jimmy. I wouldn't be surprised to get a conditional first or second. I can see the whole conditional thing. Here's my thing with Jimmy. Even if the 49ers win the Super Bowl, I think if you just like block out everything and you just look at his win-loss record, I think he's definitely 100% worth a first-round pick. 100%. You just block out everything. You just look at the production's there.
Yeah.
But if you watch the games and you see how the 49ers kind of have to play to get the wins with him, it's off. And that's why, you have a certain section of the 49er fan base that kind of like, they love everything. Oh, he wins. But if you ask any other fan base, and probably we're going to find out too what these coaches feel about him when we see the 49ers get for him. But they don't want him. No fan base wants Jimmy Garoppolo. And they don't care, you guys win games. They look at it. People have been having this argument with me. I was one that was really like, Jimmy Garoppolo, like, he's going to continue to get better. And my friends were telling me, like, dude, he's not good. Like, and they're telling me all these things, and I'm just thinking they're hating on Jimmy G. Like, man, why y'all hating on Jimmy G? Man, we be winning games. And then now it's like, okay, I see what they're talking about. Like, there's something not quite right there. It's just with the way that the kind of games go with him. You win. So with me, going into the playoff games, you start Jimmy Garoppolo, 100%. We had that conversation. Who do you start against the Rams? Or both of us. You start Jimmy. You play Jimmy. Who do you start the playoffs? You start Jimmy. Like, that's without a question. But that doesn't mean that we don't see the weird things that go on. And like, he's going after this year.
Yeah, he's got to be gone. They already made that decision. They put that plan forth. I think something like I think the 49ers could end up getting a 2, maybe a 3 that becomes a 2 because Jimmy has spent a lot of time injured, maybe games played, and so it's a 2 in the 2023 draft instead of the 2022 draft or something like that. First, I probably would be pretty surprised about, but I think there's going to be a market for him. And the Giants, I was kind of joking about that. I don't think they'd be a good fit, but a team that's ready to win, like if seeing Ben Roethlisberger play, if the Steelers had Jimmy Garoppolo, they'd probably still be alive in the playoffs right now. The Saints, if the Saints had Jimmy Garoppolo, they'd be in the playoffs and the Eagles wouldn't. Maybe the 49ers wouldn't have been in the playoffs if the Saints had Jimmy G. So there's a lot of teams that know you can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. And for coaches and that's where fans and coaches are going to be way off on this thing because coaches need to win now and coaches need to save their jobs now because the fan's still going to be a fan in 5 years. The coach isn't going to be there in 5 years if you have another losing season, and especially if you're so one-sided and you can't figure out the quarterback thing. So there's a ton of teams out there, the Panthers and Washington. They need to figure out quarterback. And if you can get a quarterback for a measly day 2 pick, even a first-round pick, and that makes you a playoff team, I think almost every head coach in the league, they don't care about draft picks. They say, hey, coach, you give me a first-round pick right now, guaranteed you're in the playoffs this year. They would say, yes, please, I will do that every single day. So that's why there's going to be a market for Jimmy Garoppolo, for Jimmy W, I should say.
I mean, again, but I'm going to continue to push back a little bit, and I do think there's going to be a market for him, but the situation has to be very ideal. So, like, I feel like there are certain places he like him going to the Giants, that would be a disaster. But he go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think now you got something because they want to run the ball with Najee Harris. They want to throw to Najee Harris. They have these terrific receivers. They have a defense that I know it looked terrible against Kansas City, but for most of the season, like the defense played well. Like they would be a playoff team with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep, I totally agree. And you would have stayed on the field. There was one point where Ben Roethlisberger had 14 passes and 13 yards. It was kind of like the Cardinals thing on Monday night. It was pathetic. And if you can't move the ball and you can't hold on to it, which is one of the things Jimmy's pretty good at, putting together these long drives and using all your weapons, getting the ball to the backside of the backfield, tight ends, all these things. You can keep play that complimentary football game. And most coaches love that. And most coaches will love his toughness. So Niners will be able to get something. What it is, I don't know. But a 3 that becomes a 2, if I had to bet, that's probably where I'd put the line for what Jimmy Garoppolo
also, real quick, he doesn't have the trade. Was that no trade clause? That's not in his contract for the upcoming year. It was like only like this year or something like that.
Yeah, it ends for next year. So if the 49ers traded him this past offseason, he would have had to okay it with whatever team he went to. They don't have to okay it. I don't think they're going to send him exile somewhere. And I think anybody who's going to give up something for Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think it'll end up not really mattering that much with the no trade because any team trading for him is probably going to want to restructure his contract. You're not going to give a second round pickup for a guy that's going into the final year of his deal. Well, the 49ers did. So maybe,
I was about to
say, maybe a team will do that, but there will probably be some sort of deal worked out where Garoppolo's cool with going there and they do some sort of a tweaking of the contract and at least put a second year on there and help out the cap this year because Garoppolo's got a $25 million cap number. Something like that is what I would imagine. So if you're trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, you like him enough, you're probably going to lock yourself into Jimmy for at least a couple of years.
Right. I don't want to make it clear because I've kind of been, I don't want to bashing him, but I do think he's a legit starting NFL quarterback. I just think it's not as ideal to keep him around with how they have to win with him. They've structured an offense that works specifically for him, and even then they still have to scale back on the amount of times that he throws per game. And I saw somebody say, well, he's a gunslinger. It's like, yeah, he's a gunslinger that can only throw 25 times a game. Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, what type of guns? But he's not like a game manager because he puts the ball in harm's way a lot. So it's not like he's Alex Smith with taking care of the ball, So it's, I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic with him, but you can win games. It's just.
That's Jimmy.
End up being closer like this last game. We talked about it. Like that was a game you're up 23-7. You put your foot on their throat. 49ers were dominating. They were in the Cowboys' heads. Like it was time to take control of that game. And it's like, oh, you missed the throw. Oh, you throw a pick. Oh, like, oh my gosh, it's a ball game now. And that's not, and I hear people, every quarterback throws interceptions, and that's true. But if you're going to throw picks, you better do some things that make up for it. And I think that's kind of the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo is he's a little limited, and they have to play a certain style of offense for him to result in those W's.
Jimmy G or Alex Smith in their prime? Who's the better player?
I actually like Jimmy a little more. I think we think back on Alex Smith and it's like, oh man, like he was so, and it's like, nah, nah. I like Jimmy more than Alex Smith.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it'll be that way for Jimmy. And I'll be sad to see Jimmy Garoppolo go. Dude, I was all about. I was driving the Jimmy Garoppolo train back in 2014, coming out of Eastern Illinois. He was my dude. I was like, oh, this guy's a second rounder all day. He was my number 2 ranked quarterback in that class, over Bortles, over Johnny Manziel, over Carr, and I loved him. When the 49ers traded for him, I was like, this is amazing. This is perfect for the 49ers. I can't believe this is happening. And unfortunately, he didn't take that one extra little step, like you mentioned, either be hyper efficient, cut out the turnovers, or be more of a gunslinger, make bigger throws, and you can live with some turnovers, almost Matthew sort of Stafford style or Brett Favre style, right? And he kind of doesn't have the big play, and he still has too many turnovers. It's like it's so close, and he's still good, and you can still win with him. And when he's on, and he's super efficient. But man, he throws that questionable pick just too often, and it keeps him down another tier from where I thought he was going to be able to achieve.
Yeah, see guys say the ACL injury ruined him. I don't think so. I think he's always been the same to me. I mean, I don't like if you go back and you watch even 2017 Jimmy Garoppolo that just got to the 49ers. I don't see a big difference in his numbers and his ability. Last game I saw him get out the pocket, roll right, make a throw on the run to Ayuk. You still have some of those plays. So I don't know if it's like a different Jimmy Garoppolo, pre and post ACL. I think he's kind of been what he is.
I think it affected him a little bit. To me, it looks like he doesn't get his lower half into his throws as much as he used to. I think he had a little bit more with his arm than he does now. And I don't know if it's Kyle's offense too. It just felt like there was just a little bit more of a spread of where he threw the ball in that first year, using more of a Patriot style offense. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I need to go back and my memory of 2017 is not as strong as I think, but I feel like his lower half has been affected by both the ACL and the high ankle sprain, but definitely the ACL. I just don't. I think he was always quick with that upper body, and he always had a lightning fast release going back to college. That was the first thing that jumped out to me. He's like, this is the fastest release I've ever seen from a quarterback. But he had a little bit more of his lower half involved, I think, than he does now. Do you agree with this from Brian? 2019 Jimmy's better than Alex Smith, but Alex Smith better than 2021 Jimmy. But that's your argument, is 2021 Jimmy's not that different to you than 2019 Jimmy or 2017 Jimmy, right?
In my opinion, he's the same. He's the same guy. You look at people think of 2019 because you went on the Super Bowl run and stuff like that, but there were a lot of weird moments. If you look at the first half of that season, now again, he was coming off of an ACL, so there is context there. It wasn't great. They were dominating defensively. I mean, they were holding teams to like 100 yards, and then they were running the ball for the first half. And then later he had some big games throwing the ball around, but still had some weird moments. The Atlanta loss was weird. In the playoffs, taking the ball out of his hands against the Minnesota Vikings, it's to me, it's always, he's the same. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a bad quarterback. I watch everybody. There's some quarterbacks where I'm like, y'all could use Jimmy. Like, why? I don't know why your fan base is so against him.
There's some poorly coached quarterbacks. We talked about Cliff Kingsbury, and is he doing a disservice to Kyler Murray maybe and hindering his development instead of helping it? And Alex Smith, he was very disappointing for a long time. And then Jim Harbaugh showed up and something changed. It was very different. Alex Smith, I think, would have been fantastic in Kyle Shanahan's system. Absolutely. But, we never saw it. Would Alex Smith with Shanahan play up even further and be as good or better than Jimmy Garoppolo? I would lean toward Jimmy right now, peak over Alex Smith, but because Alex Smith was just so careful. He was overly careful with the football and didn't make any plays. And so, but Kyle
Yeah,
Shanahan
it
might
was.
love that, just getting it to your backs. And, I don't know.
I see somebody in here. He says, what K or CSS Canaan. He says Croc needs better internet. I do think I need better internet for StreamYard. I always have to talk about it. I need better internet for StreamYard. But I mean not StreamYard, Ustream. Restream, excuse me,
Restream.
Restream. I need better internet for Restream because I don't know if it just sucks up all my bandwidth or what, but I struggle on this. But if you look on my YouTube channel, I go live every morning. I do not have any issues and it's crystal clear. So I don't know why that is, but Peacock likes to use the Restream and it ain't
It's
good
what
for
we
my
use.
stuff.
It's what we use
I
for the
don't,
network. I
yeah,
use what we use, but you'll notice that I don't blur out like Croc does.
you
So
don't. That's all. Well, I'm in the South. We don't. I'm in the sticks. Like I'm not in like a city, so we
we're
don't
blurry
have.
in the South.
Like I see somebody say, get the fiber. We don't have the fiber here. There's not even an option. It's not even an option for me. So, but StreamYard works best. Like for me, I'm good on StreamYard, but on this, I don't know. It's always sucks. I freeze and everything's terrible.
But your audio sounds good. Your voice is always spot on, Croc. So that's what's really important here.
It's the
In the
raspy
podcast
voice. They
game.
love it.
Yeah. All right.
Hold on.
Okay.
Got to touch on this. Were we about to get off? I got to touch on this real quick because I've
Okay.
seen it a
Last
couple
one.
of
Here
times
you go.
now. Marketing Pro says Trey Lance has been outperformed by Jimmy Garoppolo. And my thoughts on that is you would hope, right? Like most people would tell you that an 8-year NFL veteran that can win games like Jimmy Garoppolo should be better right now than a rookie coming from North Dakota State that has limited snaps over the last 2 years. Like Jimmy Garoppolo should be, because again, we've said it. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting NFL quarterback, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo would have outplayed Trevor Lawrence. Jimmy Garoppolo would have outplayed like pretty much any rookie from this class and a lot of starting quarterbacks as well. So it's not like a waste. But also we've seen the improvement from Trey Lance as well. And they have a different skill set. They have a different dynamic. But when you watch the Houston Texans game, from a statistical standpoint, it was a Jimmy Garoppolo game. 16-23, 2 touchdown passes, 1 interception, 250 yards. Like it was solid. So Trey Lance is heading in the right direction. I think he's going to be just fine.
I would put it this way. You would hope and you would expect that a veteran that is a good starting NFL quarterback would be better than a rookie day one. The argument for playing Trey Lance was always not about how good he was going to be week one. It's about getting him ready to be as good as possible. And who knows, maybe by now, if Trey Lance had played all year, maybe that versus what we're seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo could be a comparison. But it's hard for a rookie that hasn't played very much to be better than a veteran. And you would expect the veteran to be better. And obviously they have such wildly different strengths and weaknesses that it's really hard to compare them to, because it's different game plan, ball comes out different different route combinations, everything's different with those two guys. But you would think, my thinking is that I don't know if the 49ers even make the playoffs if Trey Lance plays, but would Trey Lance be better right now than Jimmy is right now if Trey would have played all year? That's the big question I have. But obviously week one, you would expect that could be better, especially in a Kyle Shanahan offense. I mean, that's not easy to jump in and just be great in all of a sudden.
And I think when you look back on this class, people are going to like view this class, and obviously you have 5 quarterbacks go in the first 15 picks, and they all went to just different scenarios with, losing teams, solid teams, a guy that sat coming from North Dakota State, a guy that, they cut Cam Newton for to throw him in there and he played well. So just, Justin Fields, just totally different dynamics in each guy. The situations were so different. I'm curious to see which way is going to be the right way with how these guys end up, succeeding in the NFL or not.
He's doubling down now. Says Trey Lance is clearly a bust. Kyle indirectly letting you know. There's been
I don't think so.
Been some really, really good signs from Trey Lance. Is he ready? Is he perfectly ready yet? No. Again, 21 years from 1AA that didn't play last year. But man, how calm he is. He's got a Joe Cool element about him. His physical ability, seeing him make some of the throws he's made, seeing some of the anticipation throws we've seen from him. Look, it's got to come. He's got to get a cleaner release. He's got to get the ball to where he wants it more accurately. Sure. But man, I think he's built to the right stuff. I loved how calm and cool he's been as a rookie coming into the NFL at his age, and he's shown some signs of like some real exciting quarterback play, I think, to come. I think it's going to be really fun watching Trey Lance for years, and I would be willing to bet he's not a bust. I don't know how good he's going to end up being, but I'd be willing to bet he's not a bust because I just think from the neck up, he's built right.
Yeah. Somebody asked if I went to USC. Nah, I didn't go to USC, but
Nah,
you know,
Croc couldn't
represent the West Coast out here. Definitely wasn't good enough to play there.
What? Come on, Croc. Show the ring. You
Oh,
got
okay.
the jersey hanging up on the wall. We're talking about Arena League champion here.
Oh yeah,
You
bling
weren't good enough to play
bling.
at SC. Come on.
There's too much diamonds. You can't even see it. It's too many diamonds. It's actually in the cool. I don't know if I ever showed you the case, but it's like in this cool like case, and it has like a little light. Boom! Look at that. Got a little light. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My first and only championship I've ever won. So,
did you ever get any off season or any like postseason accolades, like swag of the year, defensive back of the year in the Arena League?
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh, here we go. All right, we got a little story time with Eric Crocker. This is what the overtime is all about on the live stream of this podcast. How do we see the off season playing out? I have no idea, Chris. I couldn't have imagined how the offseason went last year. In fact, I did a podcast with Trevor Sikkema and Ben Solak, the old hosts of Locked On NFL Draft. I did a podcast with them, and I was putting my GM hat, and I was drafting for the 49ers less than 24 hours before the 49ers made the trade up to go get the number 3 pick. And I had the 49ers also trading up. I had them trading up to the 6th pick where the Eagles were. And what's funny is the Eagles actually ended up trading back to 12 with the Dolphins as part of that 49ers deal. And I had the 49ers drafting a quarterback there because it wouldn't have cost as much to go up and get those guys, but you could still get up in front of teams like the Broncos and the Panthers that, you know, looked like there was a good chance they could take a quarterback, even though they didn't. And lo and behold, that podcast was obsolete as soon as the morning came around because John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan put that deal together, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, they just traded up to number 3. So there's no way you could have seen that coming. So when you ask about how this offseason is going to play out, I have no clue, except for I'm pretty sure the 49ers are going to trade. They're going to trade Jimmy G, and they're going to have to spend some cash on some of their own guys. And I think they're going to be looking for mid-round picks, late-round picks, trying to add some depth that way because they don't have a ton of money to spend, and they've got a ton of their own free agents. So I don't think there's going to be much shopping going on for the 49ers either.
All right, so here we go.
See you, Croc.
Yeah, I got my little trophy here.
Yeah.
Can you see what it says?
Defensive Player of the Year 2014?
Yeah.
Woo!
So I was actually I was the number 1 overall pick in that draft, and I went out there and I performed extremely well. 11 interceptions. I ended up earning a decent pay, for Arena League. I was making, a few $1,000 a week. So I was doing good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got Defensive Player of the Year. In college, I made all conference, both in junior college and at the university. I made all conference both times. Let's see. What else? There's
what kind of a suit did you have on for that Arena League draft? Did you go walk through onto the stage and put on a hat? Like, what kind of fanfare was there when you were the number 1 pick in the Arena League expansion draft?
So I knew nothing about the draft. I didn't know it was even like a thing. And someone just hit me and was like, hey, you just got drafted. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you're the number 1 overall pick. I was like, wait, what? So I had no idea about it.
To make sure you still want to play football first before they spend a draft pick on you? That's crazy.
I know. They had no idea. They didn't know if I was, and I had, I was just released from the Jets, and my heart wasn't even in it because my father had passed away, and I don't know, I just didn't have like a love for football at the time. But once I got drafted, boom, flipped that switch and I got into it. And I see someone says, Crocky, you ever think about playing in the CFL? I had plenty of CFL opportunities. I mean, they threw a few different contracts at me, but the way the CFL goes, if you get drafted in the CFL, I'm not drafted, signed or whatever, which BC Lions, they held my rights. You have to go there for 2 years and I can't leave. So when I was left the Jets, I was like 26 years old, I believe it was, and I didn't want to go to the CFL because by the time I'm 28, like that's it. I'm not gonna have another shot at the NFL. So then I went to the Arena League. I balled out, and then I just got paid. So I don't want to say so much, but I got paid, more than a CFL contract playing in the Arena League. So for me, it just made more sense to just stay home.
The weather's too cold in Canada too, right?
Yeah, Crocky probably wouldn't have done well in that.
It's hard to be swagged up when it's that cold outside, right? And like the field's too big. The field's bigger too. It's got to be harder to cover.
The end zone's like 20 yards. The width is definitely wider.
All right, good stuff. Thanks everybody for joining us for the live stream here on today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with another Winky Wednesday podcast. Of course, we've got Peter Bukowski coming up. Oh, we've got a nice little rivalry going with Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers. That'll be Thursday show. Then our Keys to Victory Friday. Getting ready for the game is coming up quick Saturday. 49ers at Green Bay Packers, divisional playoff style. I can't wait. Croc and I back tomorrow. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Talk to you then right here. Locked On 49ers.